Hello, gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful people. How are you? Today I'm talking about the distortion and perversion that we have in this world and the capacity that humankind has, certain ones, not all of us, to do really, really weird stuff. I'll tell you all about it on the other side. So I don't know if you've been keeping up to speed with Candace Owens' series on the French president and his wife stroke husband. I don't know if you've been watching that, but she's been doing a fabulous job. I mean, fabulous job. Everything that she talked about, more or less, I'd heard from other places over the years, because the guy who was actually investigating it has been doing this for a long time, and those kind of things filtered through. But just hats off to her for bringing it all out, because she has millions of viewers, millions. And I was thinking about what's going on with all of this. You know, politicians in high places. Like I tell you, there was a guy, you know, there's a guy who does a monologue, dialogue on Fox News, and Gutfield, I think he's called, and he made a joke about Obama, saying the rumours about the Obamas getting divorced are still rife, but never mind, they'll probably be able to sort it out man to man, right? Now, and everyone laughed. And he said, that's really bad that you laughed at that joke, but he did it. And that's on TV. So there's something that's going on. Yeah, that the leaders, many leaders have to have a male wife. And I know that's an oxymoron, a male wife. The same in Hollywood. Lots and lots of people, famous people, appear to have wives that don't look like women. Yeah. And, you know, the ironic thing was that there was this conversation about Obama having an affair with Jennifer Aniston. And I've seen loads and loads and loads of videos talking about her not being a woman, but having the skeletal structure of a man. Who knows? Who knows? But what's for certain is that there's something weird going on. And so I was just chatting with the emissaries about that, and I was saying, well, what's your take on all of that? And they said, you know, in a very sort of general way, people can do what they want. That's their business. However, with leaders and very famous people, when they are asked to do this, and they are asked to do this, there isn't their choice. They are made to do it. That's what asked, no, they're made to do it. They said it's for two reasons. One is to mock God, right, which is very important, to mock God. And that I believe that that's what the whole TRANS movement is. It's in the next stage of mocking God and mocking creation, mocking nature. And it's also tremendous control. Because if you are the president of a country and your wife is a man and you don't want anyone to know that, right? Then you're going to do what you're told, whether you like to or not. And that's exactly, that we know. It's not a revelation from the emissaries that politicians are corrupt and are being controlled. But they were just saying that's kind of the two main things that are used, that they've got something on them, yeah, and that's a nice way to mock what is good, to mock good with evil. But they said something really interesting, which was, they said, have you noticed though that the system that they use is, and this is, the Epstein thing, all of that, and there are many other, the Diddy thing. It's all about getting people to do things that they may not under normal circumstances do. So in the Diddy parties, there are talks of intoxication and special things that we're giving people to make them more malleable, let's say. And then they would get them to do stuff. And then whilst they were doing stuff, they would video them. And this has been used for a long time. Yeah, this kind of blackmail effect. And the emissary said, isn't it interesting that they've got to do that? And the question is, if all of these important people didn't have that hanging over them, would they do what they do? It comes down to, are people intrinsically good or intrinsically bad? I believe that people are intrinsically good. However, we know that we can get them to do very bad things. And especially if they're scared. I watched a German mini-series about a house that had it was a smart house that had screens everywhere. It was a robot who was looking after the house. And the robot happened to be a real person that was put into the machine, a woman who was not very nice. And in one scene, the robot said to a man who she had captive in the house, your wife's coming. If you want to keep your children safe, you got to kill her. Right? And he was going to. He didn't, but he was going to. So it's kind of like fear, threat. If you don't do that, and we all know how threat works. Threat is worse than reality. The threat is actually what gets us to do things, not the reality. I believe that many, many, many of these people who have archived footage of them doing something awful, I believe that many of them, in the heart of heart, would just think, oh, just put it out there then, and let's just get this over with. I can't stand it. Living under constant threat makes you exceedingly unhappy, and you can see it in these people. These are exceedingly unhappy, miserable, horrible, dark people. However, that's how they control them. So it just, in one respect, for me, it's good news. It just shows that if they didn't have that, maybe they couldn't control the people like they need to. And so they've got to go to these extremes. And it makes me think of the Derren Brown series. I watched, we've been re-watching Derren Brown and the stuff. It's very interesting, the stuff that he does. By the way, whatever Derren Brown does, just so you know, he does it at the base of finding people that very small percentage, it might be 1 to 5% of the population, that goes deeply into hypnosis and accepts suggestions. All right, so whatever you see people doing, understand that they're doing it because they've been given hypnotic suggestions. All right, so that's how he does it. No matter how good it looks like he's doing it, it's always at the base of these people receive suggestions very easily. And he replicated the Milgram experiment. I think the program is called The Experiments on YouTube. And he replicated the Milgram experiment, which was two people, one in one room, one in another. They had to do a series of questions. And the idea was that they were looking at how people answered questions under stress. And it was giving them electric shock if they answered incorrectly. And the machine, I didn't know, I didn't click with me until I watched this. The machine went from like 10 volts all the way up to 450 volts. Bear in mind that 250 kills people, 450, and they were like wearing these little wristbands that they would get the shock with. Well, he had these people, and there was just a man in a lab coat. Every time they would say, I don't feel very comfortable, and the man would say, just continue. That's it. No explanation, just continue. And they say, but I can't hear him. He stopped speaking now. Just continue. The experiment must continue. Right? And the results, as usual, were more, I think it was something like 70% of the people who did that went up to 450 volts. 70%. Right? And that's just some guy with a lab coat on. So what that, I juxtapose that against what they do with the politicians. Like, they have these awful things on them, and yet people, just by perceiving authority, can do the most bizarre things ever. I don't know how to correlate all of that. I don't know how to, because the emissaries say, well, without that, would the people do that? I don't know. Maybe they would. Maybe they would if they had to answer to authority. Maybe it's the authority thing. Maybe that's been drummed into us so much, do as you're told, do as you're told. How many times have we heard that? Our parents tell them, do as you're told. Yeah? Like that thing I was talking about, that documentary film about the girl that a guy just phoned a takeaway food store and accused the girl of stealing, and then got people to do the most bizarre things to the girl just because he was a policeman, just because they perceived authority. And so, in my view, fuck him. Authority we cannot bow to authority, only because if we can't trust that authority base, if we aren't sure that that authority base is going to do only good, then we can't trust it, and we cannot say that that's the authority over us. As the saying goes, there's only one authority that exists, and that's the one up there. The rest is just guidelines, that's all, and we can choose to follow them or not. And my suggestion is that we follow our own guidelines. This guideline, this intuition, because you can't trust any fucker these days. I love you all, and I'll speak to you all later.